Hello, my name is Sam, and this video is going to be the first in this series about developing games using Python. I'll be using Windows 10 as my operating system, and I will be developing using Sublime Text as my text editor and PowerShell as my terminal. You can feel free to use any sort of combination of operating system and text editor / terminal. The only thing that I will kind of recommend is that you make sure that your text editor has syntax highlighting support for Python. That'll just make your life a lot easier. It'll make it easier to kind of see, what you're typing in, what your program is doing. This series uses Python 2.7.x. It will not be using Python 3. This is mostly because the main motivation for the series is for a summer camp, and they already have Python 2.7.x installed in their environments. So we're going to go ahead and kind of keep to that just to keep our simplicity going. This series makes a couple of assumptions. Number one is that you have a working development environment. Mainly that just means that you have Python 2.7.x installed on your machine, and that you can go ahead and run the interpreter through the terminal. We'll go ahead and go over, some of the terminal operations in a minute. Just make sure that you can start everything up correctly. This video series is for people who want to go ahead and learn how to program using game development. This series is not for people looking to learn Python. It's not a Python tutorial. The series is going to be kind of going more into depth on the programming process, looking at, what we do before we even write a single line of code. That kind of stuff. You should be able to take the lessons that you learn throughout the series and apply them to different languages. If you wanted to go ahead at the end of the series and we'll make Hangman in Python and stuff, if you wanted to go ahead and make Hangman after this, in C# or Java or something, you should be able to do that, with minimal hassle. So while we'll definitely be learning Python over the course of the series, that isn't the primary goal of it. This is more supposed to be on sort of the development process itself and kind of just like an introduction to programming in general. With that being said, if you are an advanced programmer already, you kind of know what you're doing, I would recommend that you go ahead and give this series a pass. We'll be going over, more fundamentals in this kind of series. I'll have more advanced ones later on. But for example, on today's, we're going to be talking about, input and output, variables, basic conditionals, stuff like that. So I would recommend if you've already taken like your first year of computer science in college, you can probably go ahead and give this one a pass. Look for something a little bit more challenging for you. With that being said, if you are looking to go ahead and make, Call of Duty or Minecraft by the end of this tutorial, again, this probably isn't going to be the one for you. Most of our stuff is going to be, terminal based. I don't really know where we're going to end this one off, but I don't think we're going to get to ever making anything with real graphics in it. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and delve right into, like graphical game programming, there's plenty of excellent other tutorials on Unity game development, UDK, that kind of stuff. That'll kind of give you like a little boost into the world of 3D game dev. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's first lesson. It's going to be a bit of a quick one, just kind of introductory stuff. We're going to go ahead and cover variables, inputs, outputs, and we're going to go ahead and take a cursory look at our game loop. Every project that we make from now until the end of the series will consist of these 4 items in, some manner. It won't be the exact same. The logic for tic-tac-toe isn't going to look the same for Battleship or, Hangman, obviously, but, you'll get the kind of the basic idea. Today, let's start off looking at variables. I'm going to go ahead and open up PowerShell. You can see it goes ahead and opens up. And if I go ahead and type in Python, it will open up something called the interpreter. And here, we can go ahead and kind of play around and see, what does what. As we introduce new topics, we'll probably go ahead and open up the interpreter, see what it does before we go ahead and actually, start applying all that knowledge to go ahead and make our games. So our first game today is going to be a simple Parrot application. So we're going to go ahead and take in some input from the user. We're going to edit it a little bit to go ahead and give us, Parrot-like qualities. It will say, like squawk, hello, squawk. And we'll go ahead and output that edited input, we'll go ahead and give that back out to the user. So in order to do that, we're going to have to make use of a couple things. The first are variables. So there's a lot of analogies people like to use, in these sort of like introduction to programming, series. They like to compare it to like baskets and whatnot. But I mean, really put simply, variables just store data. So let's say that I had a variable x equals 2. Now let's look at this very simple line of code right now. Right now we actually have a couple of things going on. We are declaring a variable x, and that is a variable name. Our variable name could be anything. It could be fluffy bunnies, it could be x, it could be z, it could be delta, it could be anything we want it to be. We're going to go ahead and we're going to assign it. We'll use our assign operator here as equals. We'll go ahead and we'll give x is equal to the value 2. All right? And if we go ahead and do that, and we go ahead and we look at x now, we can see that x now contains the value 2. Now let's go ahead and say that we wanted to add something to x. So we'll say that x now equals x plus 2. So x is now going to equal itself, what it was before. So before x was 2, so x is going to equal x, 2 plus 2. So let's go ahead and think for a second. What's that going to equal? And I'll give you guys a couple moments. Kind of take a guess. And if you said 4, you are correct. And if we look at that statement up there, we'll go ahead and set x equal to 2 again, so we kind of have the same conditions. If we look at x equals x plus 2, one of the things we can do is we can also make a shortcut. This is a shortcut I'll be using very frequently. Is x equals x plus 2 is equivalent to, and x equals 4, and that is equivalent to x plus equals 2. So this means that, this right here means the exact same thing as that. It's just a shortcut. It's something I'll use very frequently, so I just wanted to go ahead and make sure, I cover that real quick. I'll cover it again. I don't think we're going to use it this tutorial, but I'll cover it again in later ones, just so you kind of know what's going on with that. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple other things. So let's say that we wanted to go ahead and we have a variable y, and we'll say that y is equal to 3. If we go ahead and say that z equals x plus y, what do you think that's going to be? And we'll remember that our x, when we left it off, we came out of here and we said x was equal to 4 because we said x equals 2 plus 2, so that's 4. And our y we just said equal to 3, so saying that z equals x plus y, and if you said that z was going to be equal to 7, you are correct. So let's go ahead, and that goes ahead and covers the numbers. So in Python, we have a few basic, kind of very basic variable types called primitive types. In Python, those are going to be our numbers, our strings, and our booleans. So a number would be like 3, 4, 7, 7.5, 2.3965, 3.14, something, 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 etc., etc., etc. Those would all be your numbers. We also have what are called booleans. So those are going to be true and false. So we could say A equals true. We could say A does not equal A. Or A equals not A. So what do you think it's going to be? If A can be true or false, right? And we'll actually make this B to make it a little bit clearer. Sorry about that. Give me a second here. All right, so B equals not A. So if A equals true and B equals not A, what do you think B is going to be equal to? Take a moment, think about it. And if you said B is going to be false, you would once again be correct. Because if B isn't A, and your only two options are true and false, and A is true, then B now has to be false. So we can go ahead and we can use these booleans in our what are called conditional statements. So let's say if A equals B, if A is equals B, right? We're going to go ahead and print same. Otherwise, or else, we're going to go ahead and print different. And this is a very, very basic conditional statement. And if we look at what we have right now, we're saying that if A is equal to B, we're going to print same. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and print different. So if we looked that A is equal to true and we said B was equal to not A, which is false, what do you think we're going to go ahead and be printing out down here? We'll go ahead, think about it for a second. And if you said different, you are correct. Now let's look at this again though. Let's say if A equals not B, if A equals not B, print same, else print different. And what do we think we're going to get this time? So if A, which is true, equals not B, remember B is false, so not B, so if A equals not B, we're going to go ahead and print same. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and print different. So what do we think the answer is going to be? And if you said same, you are correct. So most of the time we will be using our booleans to go ahead and make conditional statements. And let's make one thing very clear. When we say A equals not B, we're actually going ahead, and this whole phrase right here is actually making another boolean in itself. So if I actually set C equal to A equals not B, right, which is what we had in our conditional statement right here, what do you think C is going to be equal to? Remember, we printed out same down here, and our true options for C are true and false. So if you said C was going to be equal to true, you were correct. So let's go ahead and move on. We covered our basic numerics. We covered some booleans, a little bit of conditionals. Last thing we want to look about as far as variable types are considered are strings. So a string is going to be a collection of letters. So we can say that our string could be empty, it could be a single character, it could be an entire word, it could be an entire sentence. Hi, my name is Sam. And if we go ahead and print it out, it'll go ahead and give it back to us, and we can see that it's actually wrapped in these quotations. And you'll notice too in my examples, I actually use, and this is very Python specific things, this is not true in most languages, I could actually switch between single and double quotes. In Python, it's the same thing. So it'll go ahead and whether you use single or double quote, a single in a lot of languages like C, C++, a single quote is very specifically a character, double quotes are strings. In Python, both are strings. So that's kind of like a nice thing to kind of know if you're coming in here from a little bit of a different language. And so we can go ahead and say that's our phrase, and very specifically we want to go ahead and over the course of this tutorial we're going to go ahead and be using what's called string concatenation. So we're going to go ahead and say if my phrase is hi, my name is Sam, I want to go ahead and my parrot is going to start squawking. So it's going to be squawk, and then it's going to say hi, my name is Sam. And then it's going to go ahead and squawk again. So a couple things to look at this. Note that we added spaces in between here. That's because we want to go ahead, we're actually going to go ahead and back there, we're going to use our variable phrase. Sorry about that. All right. So what we could have actually done it the other way too. It still would have worked out well, but this drives the point home a little bit better, I feel like. We're going to go ahead and we have three strings here. We have a string called squawk. Phrase right now is equal to a string containing hi, my name is Sam. And then we have one more string on the back end called squawk. And notice that I add the spaces in here and here in order to kind of go ahead and add the spaces in, right? And we have plus on either side of it, so our final answer when we look at output is going to say squawk space phrase space squawk. So if we look at it, it's going to say output will be squawk, hi, my name is Sam, squawk. Squawk, hi, my name is Sam, squawk. So the last thing we kind of want to look at today are inputs and outputs. So it's all good and well that we're able to use our variables. We can kind of go ahead and manipulate them a little bit. We can go ahead and add numbers, use our booleans for conditional statements. We can go ahead and what is called concatenating strings, which is when you put them together. But what if I wanted to go ahead and get in new information from the user? While we're using the interpreter, it's pretty easy. We can go ahead and I've just been setting the variables equal to something, but in your actual application, it's not going to be able to work that way. We're going to actually go ahead and use a built-in function in Python to go ahead and grab information from the user. And that function that we're going to use is called raw input. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my phrase is equal to the raw input we are getting from the user, and I'm going to ask them to please enter a phrase. All right, and so let's go ahead and look at what this line is doing before we run it. So as we've been doing before, we're setting our variable called phrase equal to a value. But whereas before we've been setting it equal to a string directly, now we're going to go ahead and use this function to actually go ahead and get us a string. So in this case, this raw input function is built into Python standardly. You don't have to import any libraries or anything. It's already there. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to take in input from the user at the console, and it's going to go ahead and give it back to us in the form of a string. So if we look, it's actually going ahead and these two parentheses right here, opening and closing, show us that it's a function. And we can go ahead and pass this function arguments in between these quotations. So we're setting the value, please enter a phrase, which if remember, let's go ahead and think about our three primitive types. Is this a number, a boolean, or a string? And if you said this was a string, obviously you would be correct because it's words and we have quotation marks on either side of it. So we're going ahead and we're going to go pass this argument, which is a string type, to our raw input function. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to get a string of information from the user, and it's going to set phrase equal to that string. So let's go ahead and just kind of play this out, see how it works. So we'll hit enter. And it took that argument, which is a string that I entered, and it printed it back out for the user. And now it's going ahead and it's putting the cursor, right in over here, and asking me to go ahead and enter a phrase. So I'll go ahead and oblige, and I'll say, Polly want a cracker. And boom. Okay. And now if we go ahead and print out phrase, let's think about our options here. What do you think phrase is going to equal? Is it going to be A, a blank phrase, a blank string like this? B, is it going to be equal to this entire string right here, please enter a phrase, colon, space, Polly want a cracker? Or C, is it going to be equal to just what we input, Polly want a cracker? And if you said C, you would be correct, Polly want a cracker. So now we've gone ahead, we covered inputs a little bit. Oh, that's very basic, we're getting strings in from the user. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at our output for this program. So we want Polly want a cracker to be output to the user. Well, when we've been using this console, we've been able to type in our variable, and as soon as we type it in, it goes ahead and it gives us, what it's equal to. But the thing is that that's not, again, just like with our input, when we're able to do variable assignment right here, when we're outputting, we need to actually tell it to go ahead and print out to the user. If you notice, it's very clear on our strings. It actually shows these quotations, and that's, when you're in the interpreter, that's how you can kind of tell easily that you're looking at the contents of the variable. You're not looking at the output, if that makes sense. So if we wanted to go ahead and actually print out our phrase for the user, it's called printing onto the, our terminal. We're going to go ahead and use the print command, which is just like, raw input. It's a built-in, function. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to print out our phrase. So if we print phrase, we should get Polly want a cracker, but without the quotations. And if we look, that's exactly what we get. So we are going to go ahead and use a combination of all of this stuff to make our beautiful program. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. What exactly is it that our Parrot application is going to do? I'm not going to update this right now. Let's go ahead and take a look. So let's go ahead and we're gonna say that we want to make our Parrot application, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to take in user input. It's going to go ahead and format it in Parrot speak, and it's going to go ahead and output that formatted text to our user. And if we want to go ahead and kind of like write the pseudocode for what this does, and pseudocode is kind of like, it's fake code almost, it kind of gives you an overview of what you want your code to do in the end. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to write some pseudocode over here, and we're going to go ahead and use that to actually, translate that into our actual program. So let's think about this. we want to go ahead, take in user input, we want to format it in Parrot speak, we want to output our formatted speech to our user, and then we want to go ahead and we want to keep doing that for as long as the user wants us to do it. So we're going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our input, and then we're going to format our input and store it in a variable. And then we're going to go ahead and output that formatted input. And we're going to go ahead and continue to do this while the user wants to play. So for as long as the user wants to do this, it should be able to keep, you know, doing these three things for as long until the user tells us to quit. So let's go ahead and we'll open up a new tab over here and kind of try to organize this so you can see everything pretty well. Give me a second here, sorry about that. Alright, so let's go ahead and save this, and I'm going to go ahead and save this to my desktop, and I'm going to call this Parrot.py. And we can go ahead and see that when I did that on my desktop, there was a file called Parrot.py that was made, which is awesome. Everything looks like it's starting to run up pretty good. So if we go ahead and let's start doing this, we'll for right now ignore this everything between the do's, and let's look at getting our input. So if we looked at what we did over here to get input, we can look back over to our interpreter, and we can see that we got input somewhere in here. Please enter a phrase. Raw input right there. So we're gonna go ahead and set our phrase equal to raw input, and then please enter a phrase. And then we are going to go ahead and we're going to take that phrase and we're going to kind of edit it a little bit, and we're going to use our string concatenation technique to go ahead and make it look like the parrot's talking. So we're going to go ahead and say that our output variable, what we want to give back to the user, is going to be equal to a concatenation of the string squawk plus our phrase that we got from our input from our user, and then we're going to go ahead and add squawk again to the end of that. And we are going to go ahead, so that takes care, we got our input, line 1. We formatted our input and stored it in a variable, and that's what we did right here. We stored it in a variable called output. And now we're going to go ahead and output our formatted input, which again, if the answer is right over here, if you think about it, what are we going to use to do that? Give you a couple seconds to think. And if you said our print command, you would once again be correct. We're going to go ahead and print our output. And if we do these three things and we save this, and we come back to our terminal, and right now we're in the interpreter, we can tell because of the three carets. We want to go ahead, if we want to leave the interpreter, we can quit and press enter, and it'll go ahead and get us back out. Right now I'm at C user Sam, so you know, if you're again, one of the requirements for this was you knew how to navigate your computer. So if you're on Unix or Mac, you know, operating system, I'm gonna kind of assume you can navigate through your terminal. But you know, PowerShell commands, I like PowerShell because I can use actually a lot of my commands I learned in Ubuntu in here as opposed to the command prompt where I gotta change it. But if we want to go ahead and change directories right now, we can go ahead and go to a lower directory, and I'm going to go ahead to my desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and cd desktop, and now that'll go ahead and take me to my desktop, which means that the terminal can now go ahead and see my Parrot.py. And I'm going to use, remember how Python earlier, right? We type in Python, it launches the interpreter. We can go ahead and quit our interpreter. If we go ahead and actually type in Python, we give it an argument, which would be our file name in this case. So our file name is up here. We called it Parrot.py. So we say Python Parrot.py. It'll go ahead and run our program. And we can say it's asking us to enter a phrase. So let's go ahead and say, Polly want a cracker. And it says squawk. Polly want a cracker, squawk. That seemed to work perfectly. But wait a minute. Let's go ahead and look at what we wanted to do in our pseudocode. We wanted to go ahead and keep on doing this while our user wanted to play. I didn't say I was done playing, right? So we need a way to go ahead and ask, like, keep doing this forever until our user says they want to quit. So let's go ahead and we're going to use what is called a while loop. And what's happening right here is we'll go ahead and we'll keep doing everything under this indentation as long as this statement right here is equal to true. So just like when we were looking at if A equals not B, right? So I could say while A is equal not B, just like we did with our if statement, and that would be perfectly valid. Of course, right here we don't have values for A or B, so this wouldn't run. But just the same idea, we're going to use the same sort of conditional statement as we use in an if statement in our while loop, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to keep doing this while this conditional up here is true. But when we look at this conditional, right, and remember when we did it earlier, we were able to set C equal to A equals not B, and if you remember, that came out to true. So really, we want to say while C, but again, we never declared C. But think about it, when we have C over here, it's true. So we're just going to say true, because we always want this loop to keep running until we tell it not to. Okay? One of the things to notice about Python, I kind of forgot to go over this earlier, is that it's very indentation based. So if you look at like what I did under our conditionals with our if statements and what I'm doing now under our while loop, you'll notice that we have lines that are indented. And you can see that we have a semicolon right here, and then I start indenting. And this is because Python, unlike a lot of languages like C++ and C#, it actually reads these indentations, and it's part of the structure of the program. So if you don't have these indentations, or like your things aren't indented evenly, like if you do this and see how this isn't this doesn't line up anymore, it won't run right. So one of the really important things is just use your tab key and make sure that you keep your indentation going well. And you can actually see, I like this text editor a lot. One of the things it does is I can actually see, lines coming down. So I can see I have an indentation level here. I can see I have an indentation level here. I'm not supposed to have one over here. I can bring this back out, and I'm like, okay, cool, fix that for me. It helps a lot when you're trying to debug what's going wrong, because sometimes when you're first starting out with Python, you can run into problems with indentation. So go ahead, use that tab key, and make sure your indentation is good. So everything that's indented underneath this while loop is going to keep on running while that conditional is true. But of course, we don't always run it, so we're going to go ahead and use one of our conditionals. So we're going to say that if our phrase is equal to the value of quit. So if our user goes ahead and types in quit, what's going to happen when we ask for please enter a phrase, if our user gives us quit as a phrase, we're going to exit the program. And we'll go ahead and we'll output, squawk, quit, squawk. We'll print that output, but then we'll go ahead and we're going to go ahead and break out of our while loop. And we'll notice once again, I'm going to go ahead and put a semicolon at the end of this if statement, and we're going to indent one more level. And remember, these indentations are very important. And just to kind of drive that home a little bit, I'm going to add a little bit of something right down here to kind of visualize a little bit. So we'll say x equals 2, y equals 3, and we'll say print x plus y. So let's go ahead and run this, and we should say that I can go ahead and enter phrases as many times as I want to. I can enter 100 phrases if I wanted to, but as soon as I enter quit, it's going to go ahead, it's going to break out of this loop, and it's going to go ahead and print out x plus y, which is going to be 5. So it'll go ahead and print out 5, and it'll go ahead and quit the program because it'll have reached the end. So let's go ahead and save this. I've been saving using Control S. You can also save, using file save or however you want to do it. And let's come back over to our interpreter over here, and we'll use Python parrot.py. Please enter a phrase. Polly want a cracker. Prints it out. Good. Hello. H. My name is Sam. I am a parrot. I want to quit. Now notice we didn't quit here, because while our phrase contained the word quit, it wasn't equal to quit. Similarly, if we go ahead and type in quit in big letters, it's still not going to do it, because while we did say quit, we're looking for quit in all lowercase letters. Right now, it's going ahead, that was quit in all uppercase letters. So if we wanted to go ahead and quit, we could just go ahead and type in quit all lowercase. It'll go ahead, give us our output, it gives us 5, and we're done. And of course, I was only showing the math down here to go ahead and kind of give a quick visualizations. So now if we go ahead, we run this quick 6-line program. We can go ahead and say testing. It goes ahead, prints it out, Polly want a cracker, quit, and it works perfectly. So as a quick overview, today we covered variables, inputs, outputs. We took a very quick overview of our game loop, and we went ahead and made a little quick Parrot script that goes ahead and takes the input from the user, formats it in Parrot speak, and outputs it back to the user. It allows the user to go ahead and quit with the use of a keyword. And you'll notice that we have our different phases over here. We have our input phase, we have our manipulation of our information phase, and then we have displaying that data back out to the user all while checking to see if we're done with the game yet. And you'll notice those very basic 4 elements, those will be true in every game that we make while we're kind of doing this project. I guess this series. Those 4 elements will stay true. So that will go ahead and conclude, I guess, our first video. If you liked, go ahead and subscribe. As I said earlier, this is actually my first video, so I know it wasn't perfect. If you have any comments, suggestions, concerns, things I can go ahead and improve upon, go ahead. Feel free to use that comment section. And I will be uploading another one within the next couple days. Until then, good luck. Thank you for watching.